And with that, being that we are 1 week out to the 2025 NFL draft, back by popular demand is putting it probably lightly. When this guy comes on our show, the audience responds. I know that's going to be the case today as well. It's Emory Hunt from Football Game Plan, also from CBS Sports. He's a color analyst in the college football sphere and a good friend of ours. It was great to catch up with you in Indy back in February. I was going to say last month, but we're already in April, baby. So it's great to see you. This is your time of the year. And with that comes, I'm sure, a demanding schedule. So we really appreciate carving out some time, dude.
Now, I appreciate y'all bringing me on. I love when I was in the queue. First thing I hear is Sarah going off. I was like, it's about to be a great show. Like she's already on
10. That's pretty much whenever you come into the queue, I might be going off about something. Well, let's get your opinion on it. So we had just played a clip to start. Ravens GM Andrew Berry said that Milroe might be the fastest quarterback in the NFL when he comes in, even faster than Lamar Jackson. So there's that. We brought up their neither one ran the 40 at the combine. We brought up their pro day 40s. Lamar was faster than that, but we talked about really what makes Lamar special is his elusiveness. But then there was a scout that told Dan Patrick that Milroe's a better throwing Lamar Jackson. And so what do you think of those two statements? And what do you think the proper comp is for Milroe to a quarterback in the NFL?
There's a lot to unpack there. When we're talking about raw speed, one that we've never gotten Lamar Jackson's documented 40 time. We just have to go off what we've seen with our eyes. I think Lamar Jackson is probably a step faster than Milroe. Milroe out the blocks explosiveness is crazy, right? And so he has some terrific turnover. So he may not lose by much to Lamar. It may be a half a step. Like what we have to go to the tape and see who finishes across the tape first. But Milroe is pretty doggone fast. In terms of passing the football, I think people undersell and underestimate how good of a passer Lamar was at Louisville working under Bobby Petrino. And the reason why people want to undersell it is because he was so dynamic as a runner. They just ignore how good he was as a passer because they're so focused on this is an insane running threat at the position that they just discount all the passing yards, all the passing touchdowns, the completion percentage, all of that stuff, the yards per attempt. They ignored all of that. So he was a terrific passer. He was more ready to go than people gave him credit for. They just didn't want to acknowledge it for whatever reasons, right? And in terms of a comparison to Milroe, the best one I've seen is Malik Willis. When you go back to Liberty and how explosive Malik Willis was when he took off and just got out of Dodge, Milroe was the same way. And where they both excelled is the deep ball. Their deep ball accuracy was tremendous. It was a short to intermediate stuff that gave them a little bit of issue. Milroe was slightly better at the intermediate stuff, but they both struggled in terms of the short area accuracy, which tied to their footwork, which tied to their development in terms of how they played primarily from the shotgun. So that's where they have to really tighten up their game the most. The deep ball accuracy and the explosiveness are lockstep. I think that's a more fair and honest comparison to what we saw from Malik Willis coming out of Liberty. Now, what Malik Willis has become shows you that you can work on your footwork, you can work on your short area accuracy, and when you add that to the other parts of your game, you become a very good quarterback, which he has been for Green Bay. So I see that trajectory for Milroe, someone that probably has to go somewhere we can fine-tune a little bit the stuff behind the scenes, his footwork and the short area stuff. But when you add the speed and the deep ball accuracy, he was the best deep ball passer the last 2 years in college football. Milroe is going to be someone that's going to be a very good pro as well.
Hey, earlier this week, Emory, you may have seen the clip gone viral at the pre-draft press conference, but Ravens GM Eric DeCosta was essentially non-committal on Mark Andrews' imminent future going into draft weekend, which obviously has gotten a lot of conversation because of his trade value, the fact that he's going into the final year on his deal, how stacked they are in the tight end room. But that room, everybody, his future outside of 2025 is uncertain because they're all going into contract years, including the fullback Pat Ricard. One, what'd you make of the comments? And two, can you tell us about the day 3 tight end class this year?
One, the comments are par for the course for any general manager. You want to make sure you kind of keep all doors open and not tip your hand on what you're thinking because you never know what offers of value may come your way. So you got to kind of play both sides of the fence, right? So I get it from that perspective. In terms of day 3 tight ends, I think this is one of those classes where, you look at some of what the Ravens like at the position and what can fit in their room. They love guys that have, H-back tight end, type of capability. Brennan Stool out of Clemson, to me, is a flex guy. I think is very underrated in this class. Terrific vertical threat, kind of fits in what they want to do. If we're talking off the beaten path, I always love the story of Mitchell Van Voren out of St. Norbert. And, it's a Division III school. I don't know where it is. It's probably Wisconsin, right? If I'm thinking correctly, right? Just off the top of my head. But I was at the College Gridiron Showcase, and I'm watching him go through drills and watching how smooth he runs. And I was like, man, this is a pretty fluid athlete. You're watching him go up against FBS competition, and he's doing a great job in winning one-on-one. And I'm like, man, this dude is a very good athlete. Maybe I don't know if it's because I'm on this all-star game high, but when I'll go and watch this film, I'll dig into it. And I saw he had one season of football at St. Norbert, one in which he led the team in receiving 500 yards and 10 touchdowns. I'm like, but why has he only played 1 year of football? Well, that's because he spent the previous 4 years as a 400-meter hurdler at Marquette. All Big East perform. I'm like, wait a minute. This big 6'4", 250-pound dude was out there during the hurdles. I could only imagine what was going on. It's like he walk on the track. You're like, bro, the shot put over that way. And it's like, nah, I'm right here in lane 5. And he's out there winning meets. And it's crazy. So very good athleticism. Just kind of fits that mold of a 6'4", 250-pound tight end with good fluidity. Someone that has been garnering a lot of attention. I know he was at the Packers local day as well. So he's a good player. Thomas Burke is another small school guy I saw at the FCS Bowl and then the Tropical Bowl. So we saw him dominate at the FCS Bowl because he's coming from a Division III program as well, the College of New Jersey. Looked the part there, goes to the Tropical Bowl. Now he's against FBS opponents, and he's looking like a man amongst boys there. So these are some of those late day 3 gems that you see. But Brendan Sewell is the biggest one, I think, out of Clemson that could be someone that, the Ravens could target. And if we're looking for another Pat Ricard in this draft class, guys that were defensive linemen, how about this story? Jelani Stafford out of UConn. 6'1", 6 feet, about 300 pounds, squatty guy, good athleticism. So you dig into his background, find out he was an all-state high school running back. And then you see he had 6 rushing touchdowns at UConn as a defensive tackle. So that tells you he is going to probably end up in that Patrick Ricard role as a pro.
I don't think there's some fans that just don't want another one. They're over fullback, but I like to hear there are other ones because the Ravens do love their guy, and they might need it again in the future. But I just wanted to say your breakdown of Milroe and Lamar was refreshing to be able to break it down so succinctly, give each guy their due. Very, very well done. Here's my question to you, Emery. We are here in Baltimore trying to get over the hump in the playoffs, and the Ravens are essentially running it back. Didn't make a whole lot of noise in free agency. They're going to lean into the draft. If there was somebody in the draft that you were like, you know what? Here's somebody that could help get them over the hump. Here's somebody that could help them do it. Right there at number 27, who would that person or maybe one or two people be?
I think what the Ravens need is, outside of not crapping the bed in the postseason, but in terms of what they need specifically, because they got talent. Obviously, this is a very good football team. But I think what shows up in those moments is not the inability to close out a game defensively, because we can trust the offense to go out there and do what they need to do. Lamar is going to find a way to make a way. But defensively, who is that guy to close out the ball game? They need an edge rusher. They need someone that puts the fear of opposing offensive coordinators, left tackles, right tackles, and quarterbacks all the same. So I'm looking at someone where they're picking maybe a Mike Green out of Marshall, someone that just only sees in his eyes, there's only 2 people on the football field on offense, the left tackle and the quarterback. Like, he sees nothing else. Like, he just, like, that's my target. I am locked in like RoboCop. I am going to go get him. and he has these heavy hands that really walk a lineman back. He's able to finish and stay relentless to the quarterback. That's one guy I can see in Baltimore. James Pierce out of Tennessee is another one that I like for Baltimore because he has that ability to close. He tends to show up in the moments when you're watching the game. You're like, man, they need to play defensively. This is a dude that always makes the play, whether it's going and getting the quarterback because he's supremely athletic, ran 4.4 at the combine or whatnot. But you can see the athleticism on film. But you also see him drop back in coverage. He's kind of a cross of he's almost like Kyle Van Noy in terms of how Van Noy could drop back in a short zone and make a play on the ball. Pierce is cut from the same cloth. I was a big Van Noy guy when he came out of BYU. I actually interviewed him at the combine. The interview is on my YouTube channel. You can see us sitting in this airport hangar at the battleship, whatever it was in Mobile, and he's sitting there and I'm interviewing him. So that's how far back I go. But Pierce is someone that reminds me of Van Noy, and I know he may not be here at the time, but if he is, I like Shamar Stewart for Baltimore because he kind of has that same story of the Rashawn Gary, where you look at all the parts on paper, you're like, oh, he should have, according to my estimation, 48 sacks this season, but he doesn't have that, on film in college. And you're like, well, why? Well, you go and watch his tape. They're asking him to play, a different position. They're asking him to play more of an inside guy, like a 4-eye 5 tech. But he has the most, and this is a EFF stat, Emory Hunt football focus stat, where he has the most almost sacks in college football. Like, he has almost gotten to the quarterback a bunch of times, right? Number one in that category, according to my statistics. But if he can close on half of those, he'd have double-digit sacks. So I think if you're putting him in a Ravens situation, like, hey, man, go and get the quarterback, play more of an edge as opposed to a 5 tech or 4-eye, he can go out there and be just what Rashawn Gary has been for the Green Bay Packers, because that's some of the same questions and concerns folks had about Gary coming out of Michigan.
Where would you rank Donovan Ezeraku among the guys you just named?
He's in the mix too, because again, same thing about him that I like about Mike Green. Like, yes, he may be one-dimensional in pass rushing, but damn it, that one-dimensional is so doggone good. You watch Boston College play, and he is another one that has a great sense of timing of when to make the play, but he's always making plays at or behind the line of scrimmage. You just don't know if he's going to be your stand-up Sam backer because he's only 6'2", 248, or is he a guy that can put his hand in there, be an edge guy instead of physical edge. I think he's more just a rush in, like a blitzer, more so than a pure pass rusher. But at the end of the day, he's another one of these guys. So you see the theme here. I didn't mention no other position, no other player outside of edge rusher. And these are guys that can get it. These ain't, these kind of the guys that they've kind of whiffed on a little bit. These are guys that I know can make it happen, and so these are the type of closers that the Ravens need to help get themselves over the hump outside of, what down their leg in those big leverage moments.
Can we dig in a little further on Shamar? Because I feel like he's been a hot button topic, a polarizing player due to the lack of production that you cited. I think a lot of this fan base has scar tissue, having watched such a slow development for Odafe Owe, right, at outside linebacker out of Penn State. So I know you just referenced it ever so slightly, but can you dig in a little bit more in terms of what would give you reassurance? What would make you feel confident that the Ravens could get out of what his college coaches weren't able to, which was that ability to finish?
Well, because his foundation, and we're talking about, closing the pass rushing and closing on the quarterback and the almost sacks. The dude is a very dominant run defender. So at worst, you're not running against this Ravens team. So he's going to be able to be on the field as a run defender and keep, his side of the field closed in terms of the run game. And while you get him to finish a little bit more, sometimes it happens when you see guys that want it so much. Like, they want this sack so bad, they kind of lose sight of fundamentals, right? So they may take a wider rush angle and work themselves out of the play, or they may try to close down because they see him in their sights, so aggressively that they miss the wham block or they just miss the form tackle that they have right there in their hands. So it's not like he just can't beat a tackle. It's not like he can't, dip under the edge and bend the run the hoop like they talk about. He can do all of that. I just think when he gets close to making it happen, he wants it so bad, it tends to, not work out for him. But in terms of the run game, stellar, consistent. He's able to set a physical edge, get off the block, make a play at or behind the line of scrimmage in a run game. It's no different than the quarterback. Like, I think Lamar wants it so bad that we see the errant fumble happen in Buffalo. We see those type of things. Was like, that doesn't happen at all, And so I think that happens for Shamar Stewart. It's just about trusting your fundamentals, trusting your technique, and you'll see the gap between the almost sacks and the actual sacks become one line.
Now, obviously, the pass rush can help affect the overall pass defense, but last year, the Ravens obviously finished 31st in the league in terms of giving up yards per game, 244.1. They were 21st in yards per attempt, and then 30th in giving opponents the 20-yard receptions or more. So certainly some issues in the back end that they were kind of able to cover up towards the end of the season. They were talking about this on NFL Live, and Daniel Jeremiah proposed that the Ravens go out and get Maxwell Harrison, who was had the fastest 40 at the combine at 4.28. Well, Nate Wiggins had the exact same time the year before. He was the fastest among all corners. My question to you is, A, would you like this pick? And B, would there be any concern that you have two more kind of slender cornerbacks rather than one that's more physical? And instead of like maybe trying to find somebody that is more physical, did you have that concern? And would you like Maxwell Harrison in Baltimore?
I think if I'm scouting for the Ravens and my job is to find cornerbacks, my number one goal is to find guys that will not give us the crucial penalty, ticky-tack, illegal contact or pass interference because he didn't turn around and look for the football or he got too handsy at the top of the route. That's my first and foremost goal. So any cornerback that meets that standard, I'm all for. Because you guys know, I've been screaming for the Ravens to take cornerbacks for a while. They took one last year. Great fit for Nate Wiggins, right? I wouldn't be upset if they double down on corner again. And my guy is the guys that are always around the football. Harrison would be fine, not just because he runs forward too, because he's active around the football. Hell, if Siobhan Ravel just so happens to be there out of East Carolina, the 6'2" corner that's coming off of an ACL, I know that's dicey. That's a guy that has supreme level ball skills at 6'2", 198. And you think about someone like Benjamin Morrison, another Notre Dame guy, kind of plays a little bit like Marlon Humphrey. He's there, taller guy, physical guy. That's how I view that position. So Harrison wouldn't be a problem, but I do feel like the Ravens could also use another corner because we saw what was happening last year. They were targeting one particular player. Every time they needed a big play on offense, they went to that guy, right? And so if you're trying to avoid Humphrey, if you're trying to avoid Wiggins, you're going to go and find whoever's going to be that corner that's opposite of those guys. You could even use someone as a safety that can be a combo guy to go in like an Andrew Makuba. I know you kind of have a combo guy already in Darius Washington. I like how he plays. He could also be someone that could double down and play inside as a nickel, but you also look at someone that can go and take the ball away on the back end as well. So there's options there. It doesn't necessarily have to be a pound-for-pound corner. You can get by with a combo safety that can allow you to be a little bit more creative with how you use Washington. But yes, cornerback is probably 1B to the Ravens 1A.
While we're talking about the secondary, there's been some super chats that have come in for you, and I think this is just a decent segue here. Rave Kingdom wants to know how you feel about Nick Eamon-Wari, the South Carolina safety, rangy, big, super talented. I think he ran a 4.38. I just confirmed on his draft profile sheet. So, how about that pairing with Kyle Hamilton?
Let me preface my statement by saying this. I'm always leery of the guys, and we watch football all the time, right? College football, NFL football, whatever, right? So we watching ball all the time, all throughout the fall season. And if I'm always weary of the guys whose names you only start to hear once the combine happens. So that tells me how dominant were you during the season, right? Just like the Matthew Golden. We knew Golden was a really good receiver, but now he became everybody's wide receiver one when he ran his 4.2. You know, like all of a sudden he became the best receiver in the class, right? All of a sudden, Eman Warrior became the best safety in the class because he, ran his 4.3 and checked in at 6.3 too. But when you go and watch the tape, you see a good player, but I don't see the difference maker that people, because now it's going to be all projection. Can we get this guy to play up to his lofty standards that has been set after football has been played? And so for me, yeah, he'll be a good piece because he's kind of, you could move him around, be more of a strong safety type or a combo guy that can, can blitz, can use his athleticism in certain ways. But the football plays have to measure up to the measurables and the athletic traits and attributes. So for me, I would probably lean more elsewhere. I tend to be, and maybe my grading is just different in terms of, I want to see more of the football plays. If you told me he ran a 4.6, but every time I popped on the film, he was just blowing stuff up and always on that, I would want him. Just like how I had Darius Washington as my number one safety, free safety, I believe, in that class, despite him being 5'8", despite him being 170, 6 or whatnot. Every time I watched the TCU game, he was making plays. So that's the kind of guy I want. Eman Warrior, good player, but I think I need to see more of the football plays.
Okay, so you said you would lean elsewhere. Would you lean towards Malachi Starks or Xavier Watts or somebody else?
Yes, because Watts always has the ball in his hands and he plays defense. Kind of like that. You know what I'm saying? So like that's what I want. And Starks is so the team I worry about with Starks is Minnesota. Harrison Smith can't play forever, borderline Hall of Fame player. But that would be the ideal fit for them. But if you get past Minnesota, Starks is ideally what you want. Heady football player, can play back deep, can play a split safety look, can dip down and trigger down and play the alley as a run defender, can play in the slot. Yes, Starks would be ideal for Baltimore because now you have a guy that's just as versatile, in my opinion. Maybe not as versatile, but just along that same spectrum as your Kyle Hamilton and Darius Washington. Now you have a true amoeba secondary that you can move guys around depending on the matchup on the other side.
Emery, our friend Heather here has been putting us on to Florida's Desmond Watson for weeks now, and she wants to know, do you know anything about him? And added that she feels like he'd be a good fit in wake of Michael Pierce's retirement there at nose tackle.
So he was at the Tropical Bowl, and he is all of 400 plus pounds. And so it's like there was no hiding that, because his jersey, I don't even know they make jerseys that it couldn't go down, but you knew it was him because of the Florida helmet. You know what I'm saying? And he's 400 pounds. But at the end of the day, when you
say because of the helmet and the 400 pounds,
depending on which one you was looking at, right? So here's the cool part about him though, like, and this is why I love like the whole strategy of the draft and acquiring talent. He can do the one thing you need him to do rather well. Like if you need him to two gap, he can two gap. And I don't know. I know they'll say the right things, but I kind of like him going to a pro situation where he's going to get the pro level strength and conditioning and nutrition, so they can get him the right foods and continue to work on his frame. There's no class to worry about, none of that stuff. So we can get him down to 380. Right. And it seems like he wants to do that. What I also love about his game and digging in his tape, I love that Billy Napier in the bowl game was like, you know what? It's the last game for him. Let's give him the football. Let's turn around, put him in the backfield. And you try to tackle him on 4th and 1. Y'all want in the tush push? Cool. We got the perfect remedy for that. We're going to turn around and hand to a guy that's over 400 plus that you got to try to stop and tackle. So there's multiple ways to get him involved, but as a nose tackle, he does the nose tackle things really well. I just want to see him really trimmed down to under 400 to where he can be a little bit more quick off the ball and have a little bit more use as opposed to just treating him and viewing him as a novelty. But I do think there is some upside there because you don't get to the University of Florida at that position that had a track record of nose tackles and not be a good football player. So there's a good football player there. We just want to make sure we get that body down to where he could be a sustained good football player.
What round is he projected to go? And I would really love to see him intercept a ball like Michael Pierce. I'd like to see what he does after he picks up a ball. But what round do you think Desmond Watson is projected to go?
Probably undrafted, but he could be a high priority free agent, which is good for him because he could pick his spots and he can always look and see, okay, who gives nose tackles the best chance to make the team or make an impact. And again, you talk about him with the ball in his hands. We saw him carry the football. Like, I probably would have called timeout if I was on defense and asked the ref, is this legal? Like, there's no way this should be allowed to happen. But at the end of the day, like, you kind of love that part of college football. Like, Ole Miss did one against Florida early in the game where they had JJ Pegues as the Wildcat quarterback with a D lineman and an O lineman on side of him in the backfield. Clearly, I would have called timeout. And just like, there's no way as a cornerback you're stopping this illegal backfield right there with 3 D linemen in it, right? So, there's ways to get him involved. There's ways to help him out. But I see more like at best 7th round, but definitely priority free agent.
Yeah, I know this next week and the build up to Thursday night is like your version of the Super Bowl. So let everybody know, what do you have going on? I'll go over to screen share to your draft guide in just a second here, but you can be followed on X at FBallGamePlan, and I'm sure you have a lot on your calendar over the next 7 days.
I'm looking at the screen grab you got. That's pretty dope. Like, because that's an updated, whatchamacallit, we have a profile picture, so the green looks marvelous on me.
You're looking clean.
I clean up well, man. That's just what we do. Like, they say we got to be on camera. We're going to make sure we be on camera. You know what I'm saying? So
let's go.
What we got today, tonight, guys, check me on CBS Sports Network at 7 p.m. Eastern time. We got 3 straight college football draft shows. So 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m., all on CBS Sports Network. We're talking the big uglies, we're talking diamonds in the rough, and we're talking playmakers. So that's the 3 separate shows all tonight on CBS Sports Network. But most importantly, and this is way more important than anything, way more important than anything that y'all got going on right now, this draft guide, over 1,200 individual scouting reports.
Literally. Bobby, we can see your credit card up there. Are you doing that on purpose?
Look at Bobby putting this out. Like, everybody drinks on Bobby. You know what I'm saying?
Just the last 4 digits, right?
Okay, that's it.
Everybody,
I just want everybody to know.
I'm just trying to help you out in case you were about to reveal more. I got a little bit nervous.
I appreciate you. I just want everybody to know.
Eggs, man. Eggs on Bobby. You know what I'm saying? So,
the goal was, hey, Emery, the goal was to show everybody this thing's economical. $25 for a full draft guide.
Listen, I'm all about helping people, because here's the thing. If someone had purchased one of my draft guides every year since 2020, right now, they would have over 5,400 individual scouting reports at their fingertips. So you have a literal report on virtually everybody, right? So this one, we have over 1,200. So this is our largest draft guide yet. And in addition to that, we put in over 50 CFL draft prospect scouting reports, because there will be a lot of CFL draft prospects that end up on these NFL rosters during training camp and preseason that fans will need to be familiar with, that we have reports on. This is how valuable the guide is, everyone. Last week, it was a Friday, it was a Saturday, a prospect in this draft class, Cole Jones out of North Carolina Central, signed with the BC Lions. So he bypassed the NFL draft process and went straight to the Canadian Football League. We had a scouting report on him. Why? Because we saw him at the HBCU Legacy Bowl in February. Got a scouting report on him. I checked other draft guys. All they had was his height and weight. This is why you trust us. We know what we're talking about. FootballGamePlan.com/2025 draft guide. And timeout. Make sure you guys check your spam folder, because I get emails all the time. I didn't get my draft guide. Why is it not at my front door? Like, first of all, it's a PDF. It's not gonna be at your front door. Second of all, did you check your spam folder? And they checked this. Oh, my bad. It was in the spam folder. Like, yes, do that, because I'm just not gonna not send you your draft guide, right? And use an email that you check. Don't order this thing and then say, I didn't get my guide. Well, I'll send it to, Big Cat 65 at, MSN.net. Like, who has MSN anymore? Like, no, like go use an email that you actually check. So those are the caveats, but go get the draft guide, support us.
Heck yeah. And if memory serves, your claim to fame, Baltimore claim to fame is Keaton Mitchell, correct? You're way out in front of that?
I was way out in front of Keaton Mitchell. I actually told, and this is because that was way out of left field. Nobody believed me about that. It was like, why'd you have this small guy in your top 5 running backs? You know, that's after they was chewing me up about saying, why do you have Jahmyr Gibbs number 1 over Bijan Robinson? Now, let me pause for a minute so everybody can look at my face and realize how right I was.
Yeah.
And so outside of that,
That's a right face right there.
Like zoom in on, look me into my eyeball, right? So this was
Here we go. Look at that.
Look at that. Zoom in. Look how right I was. You know what I'm saying?
Wait a second. Hold on now. Hold that now. There we go.
Look at that. Look at that. Boom.
How right you are.
That's nothing but rightness in those eyes.
Just like me, Bobby.
Who else I was right about? Listen, since we get the platform, I was also right about Lamar Jackson when everybody was saying this guy was not going to be good. So I will steadily fly that flag of just, if I'm wrong about a player, at least you know it's what I thought and it's not what everybody else thought. Here's the message. I'd rather be wrong by myself than wrong in a group.
That's why we appreciate you, man. We appreciate you so much. And on your way out, if you could, Dreams just wants one closing thought from you on Mello Dotson, the corner out of Kansas.
Love him. Love Mello Dotson. I love Kobe Bryant. If you told me, I said this preseason, I was like, Kansas has the best cornerback duo in the country because both of those guys are legit like a-holes in terms of how they play the position. You could see them visually annoying the receiver throughout the game. Dotson was the perfect Batman to the other Batman on the other side. And Dotson has ball skills, so he's able to turn the ball over. You know, people were trying to avoid Kobe Bryant. They throw the Dotson side. Big mistake. Dotson's picking it off. So both are active around the football. Both are scrappy. Both can tackle. Both are able to mirror and match. So it doesn't matter if the Ravens target Kobe Bryant or Mello Dotson. Both of those dudes are legit studs. Go watch their Colorado game. Go watch their game against TCU. Those dudes competed week in, week out. Go watch their game against Iowa State. They had those 2 receivers in the witness protection program. Very good opportunity for the Kansas Jayhawks defensive backs to get drafted. I think both guys are draftable players, in my opinion.
There you have it. Queon. I knew you'd have it in closing here. Hey, seriously, we know your schedule is going to be absolutely whack between now and Thursday night. So we appreciate you. Our chat appreciates you. And best of luck, man. I'm sure we'll talk to you at some point, maybe on the other side of the draft like we typically do, so we can get your analysis on who actually becomes Ravens. So we look forward to that, man.
Love it. Definitely would love to be on again. You guys are a lot of fun. And I told you, one of my best friends watches the show religiously. So I probably get a text from Brian Tyrone Jackson, later today. Like, I saw you on the vote. Like, bro, get off my phone, man.
That was an awesome realization in Indy. So shout out Tyrone and shout out you, Emery. We appreciate you, man.
Thank y'all for having me.
Thanks, Emery.
Emery Hunt, everybody. Football game plan, CBS Sports, and that draft guide, as you see right now in the pinned comment in the live chat, is available to you. It's just $25. Hopefully my card information, I think it was just the last 4 digits, but
yeah. You know how he ended it? You know how he ended it where he said, I'd rather be right alone than or I'd rather be wrong alone than wrong with the group, which is the opposite of most people. Like, you don't want to stand out if you're wrong. You're like, well, we were all wrong. Yeah. The thing that I learned the most, I learned a lot of things, but the thing that I learned quite a bit about was he was not in on Imanwari.
Nope.
Like, he was like, nah, I'm good. And how many people are drooling over him right now, right? And so in that instance, he's sticking his neck out and saying, no, go Malachi, go Xavier Watts, because I like the ball's always in his hand. We looked at his stats. I think he had 13 interceptions over the last 2 years. And the way he broke down Milroy and Lamar, right? And just was able to like break it down into pieces and give each guy their due and somebody who has studied both. I just feel like he's always a fantastic guest, and he did not disappoint right there either.
I think that's a great breakdown of his breakdown. And my biggest takeaway was yours too, that Imanwari nugget there, because there's been a lot of enticing traits of his that when you think about the vision of him playing alongside Kyle Hamilton, it just gets your imagination wandering, but it may not be the right fit. And that'll be something to watch as draft weekend plays out and unfolds. And I got to tell you, like we always say, our guests, they are doing this really out of the kindness of their own hearts. And Emory is at the top of that list. He never, ever says no, always carves out time for us. This is literally his busy season to a T. And so at the very least, maybe if you're not interested or maybe don't have the spare change right now to purchase one of his draft guides, please, at the very least, go follow him, tweet at him. You see it right here. It's at FBall Game Plan. Just express your thanks, express your gratitude. Let him know what you got out of today's conversation. I know he appreciates it, and we certainly do too. So that was awesome.